Hoorah. All right. So, talk to me. What did you think about the topic?
I think it's a great topic, as I think all of our topics are great because
Mhm.
it's things that are affecting everybody. It's not just us that it's affecting anybody who's operating in this space. I think it is definitely relevant, you know. I mean, because we're all, experiencing the same things.
Talk to me. How did it land with you? What were your initial thoughts when I sent it to you?
My initial thoughts were to chuckle and say to myself, evil laugh, because I mean, we've been there and done that.
Yeah.
So it's par for the course. This is the business that we've chosen, and these are the kinds of people that we're interacting with. So it's all for me very relevant, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun topic. It's going to
Yeah.
be a topic, yeah. It's going to be fun. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, it's so ironic that you shared that. It's so interesting, man. When you hang around someone else enough, you start sounding like each other.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
And
I'll tell
having
you what.
like inside jokes too.
Yes.
Like I have like probably like the person in my life that I have the most inside jokes with is my brother. Like
Yeah.
all kind like songs, like only he would know. Like certain stuff we would say when we were like out someplace together and ready to go. Just all kind of just funny stuff where you think about stuff and you be like, man, that's funny. No one else would know the relevance of it, or like doing quotes from movies.
Hmm.
He'll do like a random quote or I'll do a random quote. And we'll both know like what it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're getting the same kind of situation here because a lot of stuff we'll be both thinking it's like really funny.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, what inspired it was a conversation I had with one of our partners, and she asked me an interesting question. It's very similar to the question we dealt with before, a little nuanced though. She asked me, why is it that number one, she has seen entrepreneurs grow and scale and then all of a sudden drop off, like fall off,
mhm.
right? So you'll see him go from 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 or 0 to 150, 200, 500, you know, a million. We've seen it with many of the partners that we've worked with over the past, and then they just fall off. And then the other question she asked, which I thought was very interesting as well, was, how do you deal with the fact that you work with individuals and at some point in time in a relationship, aliens may abduct them, right?
Okay.
You'll build teams, you'll build relationships, and you think you solid, and all of a sudden you look up and that person has checked out,
Mhm.
right? And for me, I think that was like the context of the discussion. And the first thing you said that I thought was fascinating, because literally the first thing I said was like, number one, you chose entrepreneurship, and that is par for the course. You
Oh,
have to expect
absolutely.
it. It just is what it is.
It
And
it could be somebody who you're like super super tight with, and you thinking like everything is everything. Because I've had it happen to me so many times, I'm immune to it.
yep.
With like contractors, business partners. I'm thinking of several off the top of my head where like, and even like, especially on projects where like contractors have literally like left me for dead, like, just straight, like, just, abandoned the project, stole materials, bad-mouthed me, like
Hmm.
stole my crew, all kind of stuff where you be like, oh my God, like, okay,
Yeah.
just gotta take it in stride and be like, all right, I gotta pivot, I gotta regroup, I gotta call in my B team, I gotta
Yeah.
try, I gotta figure it out. It is what it is. It's not funny at the time. I'm laughing at it now because it's happened so many times. All I can do is laugh.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not for people who are mentally weak. You have to be very strong. You have to be
Yeah.
very strong, and you have to be non-emotional about it. That's number one. Um,
Yeah.
you have to be non-emotional about it, and you just have to pivot and move in a different direction and still accomplish your goals,
Yeah.
And even like with PPLSI, like I believe it was Darnell Self, he was talking and he said he had like 20 ring earners that just quit on him. And I was
Yeah.
like, damn, like that would be so devastating, because of like the ramifications of it all. And he was like, he just kept going, kept building, kept moving forward. He didn't let it destroy his mental state. He just, kept going. That's all you can do, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think one of the things that I shared, and I share with individuals regularly, is you have to have some discernment about the people who are around you.
hmm
And it's almost like, well, it's not almost like, it's dating. You need to date everyone around you and have some discernment about it. Because, as I sent you in the text, you're gonna have friends. You're gonna have long-term relationships.
hmm
But you also have to be able to discern individuals who are fair weather friends, where they're just there only when things are good. You got to recognize that, right? Some people can't take the pressure. Some people can't take the responsibility. Some people can't take the heat. We're not all built the same, right? You're going to have commissionships where the only time people are around, the only reason they're at the table is because there's a financial benefit. There's commission or compensation,
Makes
right?
sense. Yeah.
Um, you're also going to have people around you who, I mean, it just is what it is. I kind of said it already, fair weather friend. I guess seasonal would be the same
hmm
because it's just, people only around for certain seasons and then they're out. And then, my favorite, or not my favorite, but I think the one that's sometimes the most fascinating and that will get a lot of entrepreneurs caught up is not recognizing frenemies who are in your midst, right?
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even to take it a step further, like when you said like the seasonal friends, like even with contractors, I call them seasonal workers. Like, they call, they want to get some money, they working good,
Hmm.
and bam, you don't hear from them for 2, 3 weeks. And you
Hmm.
oh, well, what happened? Did you get into a car accident? It's crazy,
Yeah.
And what I find, well, because a lot of my experiences are with contractors, is that a lot of times when that happens and someone falls off or changes their pattern of behavior, there's usually a vice involved. Like with the seasonal workers, a lot of them like
Mm.
to partake in spirits and other extracurricular activities, whether it be gambling, women, um, drinking, other party flavors, whatever. There's usually a vice involved as to why they're unable to be consistent with their work, or whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing that I think, see, I didn't do something I was supposed to do. Give me 1 second because this is going to keep happening.
Okay.
I got to turn that do not disturb on. But I think the other thing that, what I also shared is this, right? People are going to get married. And when they get married, dynamics change.
Absolutely.
People are going to get divorced. And when they get divorced, dynamics change. People are going to have epiphanies. One day they're going to wake up and say, you know what, I want to be a farmer in some remote area in South Dakota. Right. And I've literally heard of that happening where people just woke up and had an epiphany and said, God, the creator has called me to a different path. Right. You're also going to have individuals who, we don't talk about it enough, I think, go through periods of depression.
Yes.
Um, you also have individuals who what I call people who are interested, but they're not committed,
Yes.
right? You're gonna have people who are interested, and they're only interested in what they're interested in. Like they'll join you in business because they have a short term or intermediate goal they need to achieve,
Right.
but they're really not committed to the long term vision. They're really not committed long term to the relationship. I mean, same thing in dating,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah,
I,
people waste your time and like think nothing of it. Like it's just like, okay, on to the next one,
yeah,
you know. So, and I think with like internet and with social media, a lot of times people are um overstimulated. They're seeing a lot of things that are kind of maybe even leaving them like disenchanted. Like when
yep,
they get involved with a business or even personal or professional, it doesn't matter.
no,
Disenchantment is across the board. You know, you get involved in a business and you're like, oh, cool. You see all these people, you're thinking they're doing this and they're doing that. And then, like, the reality is when you're in the rat race and you're on the hamster wheel, you're like, oh, wow, this like really requires a lot more effort than you anticipated. It's not going to be easy. And it's very easy for people who don't have those survival skills, um, like inner city people have, to just crash and burn or fall off and be like, this is too hard. I don't want to do it.
yeah,
And just
you
be,
know,
yeah. So it's very common.
yeah, grit, right? Or what I like to say, um, is, and and depending on where you're speaking at, the venue you're in, you got to be careful about the diction you choose. But the bottom line is, not everybody has that dog in them.
Or
Not
that
everybody
that
has.
moxie, that aggressiveness where you're
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna win no matter what. I don't care what
yeah,
anybody says. I'm gonna win. And that's just gonna be that. Yeah. I think you
yeah,
have to have a little bit of rebellion in you too. You have to be a little bit of a person who's rebellious and wants to do things a certain way. Like it's so easy to just fall in line and, do the regular 9 to 5 and, everything's easy, because a lot of us who grew up in certain time era, like you were taught, like, oh, you just get a good job and, everything will fall into place. But like the way that it is now, that's not reality. Like there is
mm,
no good job to get, and everything's going to fall in line. Like if you're not out here hunting and gathering for yourself, then you're probably not going to eat.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
The other thing is, uh, entrepreneurs really need to take into account and be able to discern too. And you find this, it's funny you mentioned the street people, right? We'll just use that. Or people who are getting it out the dirt, as I like to say.
Yeah.
The issue that you're going to run into sometimes when you partner with people who are accustomed to getting it out the dirt is, when you are in that survival mode situation and you're dealing with other people who are in survival mode, the attitude is, I got to get this for myself. I can't trust, or I can't believe, or because all my relationships are temporal, right? People are coming and going,
Mm-hmm.
right? When those situations occur, it is hard for people to understand how to work with other people.
I
I've had a couple partners over the last, I want to say 7 years, where I first met them and they were questioning every move that I made. Didn't trust that I was going to follow through on A, B, C, and D, or um, we're always looking to see if there was some type of angle, or whether somebody was trying to take advantage of them or run game on them, put them in the trick bag, all that fun stuff. And I remember just how frustrating it would be to deal with those people because you can't move fast when there's distrust. Things don't go smooth when there's distrust. There's always hiccups. There's always taking a pause, explain this or explain that. It's like, it's very similar to not only dating, but when you decide to marry someone, man, if the values and the principles, and I'll just leave it there. Yeah, if your values and goals are given, but if your values and principles aren't congruent and you don't have trust, it's like anything else. I mean, a basketball team can have the most talented players in the world, but if they don't trust each other to do what they're supposed to do, play their position, and they don't trust that people are going to execute a certain type of way, they can easily be defeated by a team with far less talent. And when you're dealing with entrepreneurs who've been accustomed, once again, surviving and getting out the dirt, there's a mindset that's required to survive. But you know what? There's a different mindset that's required to thrive. And
Absolutely.
you can go faster by yourself, but you go further when you understand how to work within a team, within a framework, right? Um, and I've seen that detonate entrepreneurs. The other thing that you have to be cognizant of, I think, when you talk about these different relationships you have, um, and this is what I shared with our partner, and I was like, look, I embrace the hardships that I've gone through. I would not repeat them. A lot of them I would not repeat, but I'm okay with the hardships I've gone through. I've accepted bad decisions that I've made, just like I've accepted good decisions that I've made. But oftentimes, when you see people take off like a rocket, sometimes their talent and skills can take them places where their principles, values, or sense of integrity can't keep them, right? And it's like, what I told her is, I'm glad you are having these problems because that means you are going to be able to help more people. Someone who's never gone through some type of addiction, someone who has not gone through some type of relationship hurdles or struggles, someone who has not gone through some type of family strife, someone who has not gotten it out the dirt before, someone who has not struggled in their faith or their sense of spirituality, someone who has not struggled in these areas. Well, look, the majority of people aren't born on third base. So, you know, you don't have a lot to give. You don't have any testimonies to share. The one thing that one of the reasons why I appreciate, my battle scars is because I can take someone that's in a family situation where the culture is bad, they're not supportive, they talking nasty about you, they are grimy about you. I can talk someone through this is how you deal with oily people. You know what I mean? I can talk someone through, even though I haven't had the thank God, some type of drug addiction or anything like that. But I'm idiosyncratic. I have my certain addictions to certain things, behaviors, activities back in the day that I've since dispersed. But I know how to come out of those things. I know how to break bad habits. I love the fact that I can sit down with someone who, quite frankly, is going through a divorce or going through some type of relationship strife, and I can say, "Look, I know the wrong way to do it. I know the right way to do it." Right? And that's what I share with her as well. It's like in these relationships that you have, it's easy to get caught up comparing yourself to other people. And not necessarily being envious, but you start feeling some kind of way about yourself too in relationship to other people. And your frenemies, they'll take advantage of that. The frenemies, you know, they can't wait to go out and broadcast your weaknesses, broadcast your deficits, broadcast your failures. It's like, and it doesn't always have to be so overt. It could be covert, right? They're having conversations instead of speaking well of you when you're not in the room. As soon as you're not in the room, they start tearing you down, right?
Oh, absolutely. Or
And
even just like a underhanded, like I call it the sneak diss.
yes,
Like oh, Adrian, how's your little construction business going? How's your little real estate business going? Are you still doing your little projects in the ghetto? Like that.
oh
Yeah, like
yeah,
that. And I'd be like, you know what? As a matter of fact, I am. Want to come by and look at one of my projects? I mean, so yeah, that's like the sneak diss,
yeah,
like basically, um, you know, talking down to you, but with a smile on your face too.
yes,
Nice, nasty, like passive aggressive.
yeah,
A lot of people don't even realize that that's a thing because they're so used to doing it.
yep,
They don't really know that it's a real thing that happens, especially professionally and personally too.
yeah. Is that background noise? Is it drowning me out at all?
No, I don't hear any background
Okay,
noise.
good. All
Do
right.
I have any background noise?
No.
Okay.
So, you know, so I guess as a solution, what I shared was this, right? I used my terrible coffee habit as an example, right? Anyone who knows me, I know it's a waste of money. I know I shouldn't do it, but I will occasionally go to Starbucks still, right? I'll go and pay $20 for the super mocha something latte, right? And
Mhm.
what I share with her is, look, if you, for those who go to coffee shops like that, particularly Starbucks, and even I'm beginning to see it happen more frequently with the managers at Panera Bread. If you walk into a coffee shop like a Starbucks or Panera Bread, if the manager is in the dining area, 9 times out of 10, they're in the dining area interviewing people.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. They're not serving behind the line. They're not doing the things that people would typically expect a manager to do. They're interviewing. And if you think about it, most Starbucks might have 6, 7, 8 people on staff, right? They might have that rotation. And a person would think, well, why do you need to be interviewing 20 and 30 people a week when you only have a position for 8 people? And the reason being is that manager knows, once again, people get married, they move, they go to school, they drop out of school, all these different life things happen, and they need to be constantly interviewing. So when someone transitions, put it that way, out of the position, they have someone to fill that spot. And I think something that entrepreneurs sometimes forget about is, yeah, you need to always be recruiting your friends before you need them. You need to always be developing relationships. You need to always be in a situation where you're recruiting or trying to aggregate more talent around you because of the transient nature of the relationships that we have with people, right? And
Absolutely.
and really you just have to accept that. That's the only solve, right? I mean, yes, personal development, yes. Um, Having familial events, yes, that works. Recognition works. You know, babies cry for it, men die for it, right? Um, all these different things are required, but the bottom line is you have to be ready and accepting the fact that you need to be constantly reinventing the circle around you. And if you're not doing that, you know, you're going to catch that L. Because you can give someone golden handcuffs, at least what you think are golden handcuffs. It could be the relationship, it could be the money, it could be any number of those things. But once again, lives and people's priorities change and their goals change. And you're
And
not,
their health
oh
changes.
my gosh, we didn't even talk about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I
Yes.
mean, I feel like that's a real thing because I shared with you that that's something that's going on in my network.
Yep.
Like people's health can affect their work and affect
Yes.
their goals and affect
Yes.
the dynamic of your team, and even you as a business owner, because when you work with people for a long time, you care about them. It's not just like they're robots and inanimate objects, like you develop relationships with these people and you care about what happens to them, especially when you know stuff about them, they share stuff about their family, that you're getting to know them personally and professionally. So health for sure, like that would be at the top of the list because
Oh my goodness.
there's so many things that can happen to a person's health.
Yep.
Um, and literally, to me, very, very much, I believe and live by the fact that your health is your wealth. Mental health, physical health is so super, super important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can definitely affect um your team. It can affect the dynamic of your team. It can affect how they work, what they're doing, what they're able to do. Um,
Yeah.
so it's super important to take that into consideration too. Like you said, you always have to be recruiting and thinking about the next step or the next, person you're bringing on the team. I can think of several people who've worked with me who've been ill. One of my business partners almost died. Like he's retired now, but yeah, he was literally like in the hospital in a coma. So, just
Um,
stuff happens. I mean, he's an older person too, but still.
yeah. I mean, I don't want people to get it twisted. Like I'm not about to go out here and become some type of health and wellness guru and start
No,
selling.
don't start selling
But
Avon and
I'm not, no, but at the
and
same time, I am going to be way more conscientious. And just the same way I lean into entrepreneurship, the same way, it is what it is. You hang around me long enough, I'm gonna convince you that you can do it. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like I'm gonna convince you that you can at least do entrepreneurship part time, and that
Right.
is good for you,
Mhm.
right? But I am at this stage of my life, I'm leaning in more and more and more into health and wellness. I had somebody's actually,
Bless
of
you.
course, I cough right on time, right? Anyway, I had some people around me helping me out with everything I have going on right now in terms of the move. And I'm like the oldest one out the bunch, right? By a decade, maybe even some of them, maybe even 15 years.
Mhm.
And I was sitting back watching, right? As I was carrying furniture and stuff up and downstairs, and I was watching them do it. And I was like, man, how am I 10 and 15 years your senior? And I'm
Running
more
circles
mobile.
around them. Running circles around them.
Oh my God, man. It was even getting frustrating. I was like, how do I have more? And I
Stick.
don't think yeah, I don't look, I don't think entrepreneurs understand this. You know, and I'm not trying to quote unquote, what do they call it, fat shaming or anything like that. But I
Yeah.
tell people, look, imagine how much, one of them I looked at him and I'm like, the guy probably weighs 80 pounds more than me.
Hmm.
And it's not like I'm a lightweight. I'm slim, but I ain't a lightweight. I'm a 200 plus pounder. And I was like, bro, I want you to go over there and pick up that weight, or go pick up that brick that I used to use to curl, to stay in shape when I didn't have time to get to the gym. And I said, I want you to imagine what it would be like if you had that on your back all day long. And he said, man, it would be terrible. It would be terrible, walking up and down stairs. So now imagine having to do that for years, and then all of a sudden the brick is taken away from you, right? You don't have that weight anymore. I said, imagine how much faster you would move. Imagine how much more endurance you would have. Imagine what your conditioning would be like. Imagine just how much easier it would be to get up and sit down and walk up and down stairs. I'm like, for entrepreneurs, if your health can be a 80, 100 pound weight slowing you down, or you can lose the habits and lose the things, and just imagine how much lighter and faster you'd be. Like, even in terms of your mindset, like food, what you consume impacts your brain. A lot of people think about food and they think about their muscles, and they think about their bones, and they think about, ligaments and all that stuff. But I was like, your brain is a muscle.
Right.
I know it's not categorized that way, but your brain utilizes the uber majority of the resources in your body, and particularly if you have a type of occupation where you're required to think, analyze, where you're required to take inventory of a lot of different things and a lot of different people around you. If you're not like healthy, even your capacity to think properly, right, goes out the window. And so, I'm really gonna, at this stage in my life, I'm going to lean more and more and more into health and wellness. It's not like my health and wellness is perfect either. I'm not perfect at all by any stretch of the imagination. But even still, with that being said, I'm just like, man, like, I was just looking at people, a good hour into the move, and they gasping, can't, got to sit down, and you know, gotta keep taking breaks. And I was like, no, man, we about to finish this today. We about to get this. I'm going up and down these stairs as quickly as possible, and look, all that stuff. So I think that's so important, and yes, it does impact relationships. Because for me personally, I tell people all the time, I'm not going to stop for you. I'm not even going to slow down for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reach behind me and I'm going to grab you by the hand. And you got a choice at that point. You got to catch up, or you got to grab my wrist and hold on and run at my pace.
Right.
And when you are having certain types of issues in terms of your health and wellness. And I'm not just even talking about physical. I mean, people say, I don't know what they say. I don't like to use certain terms. I like to say the word mental fitness.
Okay.
When you are less fit mentally, either because of the people around you, and this goes back to, our topic, right? When you are not mentally fit because you're allowing frenemies to rub off on you and dim your light and dim your excitement and your enthusiasm for what you do, when you allow seasonal relationships to impact you emotionally and have you feeling some kind of way, where you're questioning whether or not you can actually build with people, when you have a situation where you're surrounded by people who are, where it's commissionships or compensationships, where the only time they're around is when things are good and when there's money to be made, but they're not really committed to going through the rough times and when there's turmoil and whatnot. Those things impact your mental fitness and your ability to get things done. And that's the other reason why people plateau and then drop off, or people explode, not having discernment about the type of people they have around them, and then their businesses fall off. Is because you didn't surround yourself, and you have to take responsibility with that. You didn't surround yourself with people who are really committed to the vision, people who are really committed to the vision and a mission, people who are really committed to locking arms and accomplishing a bigger goal. And when you find entrepreneurs who explode and then plateau, but they no longer grow, it is typically the people around them. Yeah, first and foremost, be responsible for yourself. Make sure you're developing skills, the talents, experience stacks, learning how to be a better leader, make better decisions. But if you're doing those things, but you're not getting traction, it's because you need to take responsibility for the environment and the people around you. If you take off like a rocket and drop off, that means you have not put the people in place that would allow you to stabilize your business and to continue to grow after momentum has come and gone, right? Because that's what momentum does. It feels good when you have it. It's tough as hell to build. And you know what? Just as quickly as momentum can show up in your life, it can leave. And then what do you have? Like, if you haven't put the right people in place, you haven't put the right processes in place, your business will fall off. And that can, you know, those downstream effects are something special.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to build your business up correctly and have the standard operating procedures in place in order for your business to thrive. Like you said,
Yeah,
survival and thriving are two different, very
yeah,
different stages, very different emotions, mindsets, and places. So,
yeah,
yeah, if you don't
yeah,
have your standard operating procedures in place, and then also too, like being able to empower your team. You don't always want to be like, oh, this is what we're doing. I like to ask my team all the time, well, what do you think? Especially as
yep,
it pertains to contractors, because they're the ones dealing with them on a regular basis. And sometimes the office staff would be like, I think we should get rid of this person because blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, okay. I mean, you're dealing with them on a day-to-day basis and you're seeing what's going on. And if you don't feel like they're helping us to build and grow, then, we can always remove them from the network tactfully and diplomatically, of course, and with respect.
yep,
And then we, pivot and move on. And, sometimes they come, well, most of the times they do come back because they know that we're still, successful
hmm
in doing stuff or whatever. And then that gives
hmm
them time to take some self inventory and to say to themselves, hey, you know what? Maybe I didn't like how they were doing stuff, but they are successful, they do have longevity and they're still working. So, you know.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I personally, I like people who are stubborn. I like stubborn people. I like people who can think for themselves and are stubborn.
Mhm.
Obviously, I like people who also know how to collaborate and know how to play their position and think about, you know, how do I contribute to whether, as opposed to what can I take from the situation or take from the team? How can the team just benefit me? How can I benefit and pour into the team?
Yeah,
Right.
how can I add to the pot? How can I
Yeah.
be service to the team? How can I help the team grow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I look for people who are stubborn because I know this about stubborn people because I'm stubborn. Yes, because I'm stubborn, there are times where, on a rare occasion, particularly if I don't understand the big picture, if I really don't understand what's going on, it might be difficult for me to quote unquote get in line. On the flip side of it, once I understand the mission, the vision, once I've decided to work with somebody or somebody's, man, I'm gonna be the first there and the last to leave. Right. I'm just going to be stubbornly dedicated to it. I think that's something that entrepreneurs need to really look for when you want to build a business of scales. You got to find stubborn people. You got to find people who don't have a quit button, who don't have an off button. And it's not a lot of them out there, but when you find that person, you need to date the hell out of them.
Yeah,
You
you
know what I
gotta
mean?
hold on to them.
Yeah, yeah, I think about this all the time. In my business dealings, I'm always thinking about how I can feed everyone around me.
Hmm.
Um, and in doing that, how can I develop a stronger relationship? It reminds me of the movie Mo Better Blues, one of my favorite Spike Lee joints.
Okay.
Um, and in the movie, you have Shadow, and you have Bleak. And I don't know, it was kind of hard sometimes to see who was the protagonist and who wasn't. But at the end of the day, Bleak ends up being the protagonist. Shadow kind of ends up, being kind of like almost like a frenemy in some respects. But eventually, you learn through the movie they have this relationship where Shadow isn't really a frenemy. At the end of the day, he's more like they have a commissionship, a relationship in that way. But anyway, there's a scene in the movie where um, he turns around because they're having trouble getting people to come to the juke joints, come to the jazz events,
Hmm.
and Shadow wants to play a more contemporary, faster, more upbeat kind of jazz. And you have Bleak and his crew, they want to be more classical, right? They want to be more uppity, so to speak. And Shadow turns around at one point and they're arguing about this. And he says, look, you grandiose MFers are upset because people aren't coming to our events. They're not coming to our events because you're not playing the shit that people like. If you play the stuff that people like, they'll come to our events. And then you can throw that classic stuff in there that you want people to appreciate. And as an entrepreneur, I'm always thinking like that, right? I want people who get the vision, who get the mission, who are high minded, committed to these things, but I also realize I got to play the ish that people like, which means I got to keep them fed. I got to keep them busy. I got to keep them active. I got to keep them involved. I got to find ways to give them agency. And even if they don't do things the way I do it exactly and don't necessarily think the way I think all the time, and whatever the case may be, I still have to do that. And I think entrepreneurs forget that too. It's like you have to continue to serve the people around you long enough sometimes to develop the relationships that you're taking aim at and give people time to cook. So at some point they begin to understand, okay, this is what the bigger vision and mission is. And you're trying to create, you're not trying to divide the pie. You're trying to just make the pie bigger. So whatever people get, it's bigger,
Right.
right? It's more edifying. It actually feeds them, right? I think about that when, and I think about once again the relationships and different type of people who are going to be around you as you build your business.
Absolutely. And I think you brought up a really, really important point, which you always say it is giving even yourself time to cook. You have to
Yeah.
give people time to cook and you have to give yourself time to cook because it's very easy. Because you and I talked about this before, where like if you're a serial entrepreneur, which you are and I am, and you're having success in certain business and your business is taking off like a rocket, or you've had multiple businesses where your business is taking off like a rocket and you've really thrived and been like in a great space with those businesses, you can't expect every single business to have that same momentum. It's number
Mhm.
one. Number two is some businesses, especially as it pertains to like communicating with people and sharing information with people, are more challenging and you have to put more into it than you would other businesses. And so
Yeah.
it's very easy to get discouraged and feel like, oh, I'm not doing nothing. I don't feel like I'm really like making any moves because it's not like these other things that you're doing where you're like, oh wow, like like there's the social evidence of all this other success you're having, and then you have this other thing where you're like, damn, this ain't really hitting on us. This is like, this is like slow motion. Like, what is the deal? Um,
Hmm.
but everything is different. Like, not every business is the same. And the momentum that you're having, especially if it's like behind the scenes and you're building up your business, it just takes, like you said, one person, you like, okay, now I can kind of see it. And like also too, being trainable and open to what someone else's perception of it is. Because like when we had our Monday accountability class and you started like, kind of like breaking down some stuff, I was like, yeah, you know what? I really wasn't looking at it like that. I was looking at it completely different. And then when you put it, I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of like the boost that I needed because I was like, okay, now I'm kind of seeing and I feel like there is more momentum going on here than what I perceived initially. Because what my
Yeah.
perception was not, it was not accurate. It was not, I was missing a lot, where it's like this is not really how this, in my mind, this is not reality. This is not what's going on. This is, something that's not really, visible to me, but then somebody else looking at it like, hey, look, no, it's really like this, and this is like what's going on. It is very helpful, because like every business is different, so you have to, like you said, give yourself time to cook and not put too much pressure on yourself. Like, oh, I gotta like move at the same momentum. It should be like this and this. Because it's not going to be. It's going to be totally different. Every business is going to be different.
Yeah.
And every team you build is going to be different too. You're going to have
Yes.
some dynamics and some teams where like like my people, my back office staff, like the people have been with me, like Melissa's been with me for like 6 years. Richard's been with me for like 5 years. So like they really know me. They know um a lot about how I think, this, that, like and they're able to kind of like just do stuff sometimes. They're like, oh cool, I'm glad you did that, or I'm glad you put that together because, I forgot about it, or, I think that's a great idea. And that's kind of like what I like about the team is that synergy is where, when people really get into a groove with you, they really start to kind of anticipate what you need or what the organization needs. And then they'll just do stuff sometimes where you're like, oh wow, that was like on point.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Man, it's interesting because like I said, there's that balance, and you already touched on it. You got to give yourself time to cook. You got to be honest and take inventory about what's really going on.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that I think people need to keep in mind too is that there's an acronym that we use in the industry sometimes called RITA. And some people will say you need to start dating Rita again. You need Rita in your life. You're not spending enough time with Rita. And people are like, what are you talking about? What's Rita? Well, it's, RITA, RITA is an acronym. Recruiting is the answer. Recruiting is the answer. I tell people all the time, particularly if you are in a tough situation, it's like, okay, you don't have a vehicle, recruit somebody who has a vehicle. You don't know how to sell, recruit somebody who knows how to sell. Um, you know how to sell, but you don't have the technical expertise in a certain area. Well, recruit that person, right? You are a visionary or you're creative and operation isn't your thing. Recruit that operations person. You're an operations person, but you don't know how to sell. You don't know how to convince. You don't know how to lead with enthusiasm and inspire people. Well, then you recruit the other person who does, right? I think about that even now with it's so ironic we're having this conversation. I'm thinking about this now, even with my wholesale business. It's like I know what I'm good at. It's interesting enough how skills really do transfer. Like I'm really good at painting a vision, creating a framework, and really getting people focused on the outcomes, regardless of what the task or goal or objective may be. On the flip side of it, which I think is interesting, like I've really grown and developed a lot over the years, so much so. But I find myself also very effective at um, the minutia, right? Identifying the deal, identifying the arbitrage, having a really good ideal in terms of identifying people's goals and helping them stay on track to meet their goals. So whether it's to flip a property, whether it's to hold a property, whether this type of finance is required or not, I've gotten like more effective at that. However, at the same time, um, I'm not afraid to go to someone and say, "Hey, I need you to do this because I'm about to f it up." I know I am. I can smell it. Like it's about to be a problem. Um, that's part of the reason why I contacted you on that one deal. I was like, with everything I got going on now, I
It's
need
easy
somebody.
to make a mistake. Yeah, it's easy to
Yeah,
make a mistake.
I know I'm gonna overlook something,
Hmm.
right? And of course, I did overlook some things, which is why I gotta resolve those things when we get done here.
Right.
But if you didn't bring that to my attention, I just would have been at the table looking like, you
Well,
know,
no, it would have never even got there because you had to get from point A to point B. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
everything has to be aligned. So that's why I was like, okay, let me,
yeah,
remind him about that or whatever. That way, everything runs smoothly. And then that other entity, they just the best way I can describe it is they just move to the beat of their own drum. Like anytime I've had a transaction with them, and I've had many, it's just like, okay, so basically it's just like a bureaucratic circle jerk, and people are
ah,
very slow. There's
yeah,
a lot of turnover, and they know me because I'm very I like to communicate. I'll be like, hey, just following up on such and such. I know they'd be
yeah,
like, oh my God, like, girl, stop. Like, oh, hey, I just left you a message. I texted you and I called you. I just, figure it out. What are we doing?
yeah,
Like, oh my
yeah.
God, this lady here, like, geez. But sometimes, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So,
Not sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
with that particular organization, that's exactly how they operate. Nothing is urgent. Okay, nothing. It's no urgency anywhere in sight. Um, and that's just how they roll. And you'll just be like, okay, this is special.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so I always prepare people for, because in a normal situation, you're thinking everyone wants to execute quickly, effectively, and efficiently. The effective and efficient is not in their vocabulary,
mm-mm,
not at all,
mm-mm.
and you're just like, all right. And I mean, even how they handled the situation, like letting it linger for that long. I mean, you guys should have been,
Oh, and that, ooh, I was hot when I got that message from you. I'm like, why didn't we address this
but it's not
right at this?
it's not something that can be addressed. It's their process, so you have
Yeah,
to go through their process to get from point A to point B. So that's the thing, is it's their process. It's what they put into place. So even when you
mhm.
have everything all set up, like, hey, I sent you over this, I sent you over that. I've had plenty of transactions that were at this point right now, and you just keep on emailing, like, hey, what's going on? I mean, I know it's Friday. Like, I mean, can we, can we get some motion in the ocean here? You need me to come down there? You need me to bring you lunch? What what,
Yeah,
what are we doing? And it's the same. They move at the beat of their own drum,
yeah,
and they're used to doing it that way because it's just it's like one of the utility companies. Like, you can't go around them. You can't circumvent the process. You just have to go through their process. Just
yeah,
like dealing with, like I said, some of the utility companies where you're just like, oh my God, this is like very unorganized here. You're like,
yeah,
what's going on? And they're just like, oh well, that's just how it is, and you're just like, okay, that's not really the answer I was looking for, but okay.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Well, look, um, I'm getting phone calls from both ends, from the client and the title company. So I know I need to hurry and jump off and deal with them.
okay.
And I need to finish my own personal project here.
Okay.
But man,
Send that stuff over so I can send it to him so that we can, at least check that off of our list.
yeah, I'm gonna take care of it shortly.